Hello everyone, this is Johan Chen presenting the result of Bedrock's fracture study of the Mount Meager Area. So we have 5 authors here. You can see my co-authors Steve, Xiaojun, Christine, and Jen Chang here. We had 2 weeks of field geological and fracture study campaigns last year. And the objectives are twofold. One is to improve our understanding of fracture systems and their controls on geothermal reservoir, and 2, to connect fracture data for reservoir characterization. On your right, you'll see a satellite composite color image showing the type of land covers. Light blue indicates glacier, ice and snow in the high mountain area. Green is vegetation covered surface in river valleys and lowland, while the brownish color between these two is the badland. Mount Meager volcanic complex is a known geothermal prospective area. From the regional map in the right, we can see that MMVC is located at the northern end of Garibaldi volcanic belt in BC that stretches about 400 kilometers from the US border in the south to the Bridge River in north. As an active volcanic complex, Garibaldi volcanic belt has significant amount of geothermal energy resources. However, Mount Meager complex is the only area in the belt that has gone through comprehensive geothermal resource studies. Let's have a closer look at the Mount Meager. From previous study, we know that the volcanic complex was formed in the last 2.2 million years, and the latest eruption occurred 2,400 years ago. From the geologic map and cross-sections, we can see that the volcanic eruptions in the complex started in the south. Later, volcanic piles overlap on the pierced ones and becomes younger and younger from south to north. The newly formed volcanic layers overlay the post-Miocene erosion surface of the basement. From the map, we also see that andesite of the older volcanic rocks occurs mostly in the south. Younger rhyolite flows, brazils, and intrusions are frequency in the northern half. Geological evidence indicates explosive initial eruptions, while rhyolite flows and intrusions are more common in later stage. The explosive eruptions in the south may cause more fracturing and generate better fracture reservoirs. Field method. We use the traditional field method to identify, observe, and record geological features and evidence, to measure fracture attributes and take rock sample for lab analysis. In addition, we use the drone to take air photo and search for good places for next station. On your right, we have 2 photos. The up one, Steve and John measuring fracture planes. In the lower, a drone photo showing roadside cross-section along the Lilia River and the fracture patterns in Cretaceous basement rock along the river. We use various plots to analyze fracture planes. Here we use a stereo net to present fracture planes at the station with measured fractures. From the plots, we can see that strikes deep and the number of fractures vary greatly from one station to the other. Please note that number of fracture depends not only on the fracture density but also type of stations. For example, from roadside cross-section we have a lot of fractures to measure, but in a single spot of outcrop there could be limited plan to measure. We separate the fractures into two populations, one from basement and one from volcanic cover. On the road diagrams, we plot the deep directions to represent the feature characteristics and find some interesting difference. From the road diagram, on the right side, we can see in the basement, the northwest and southwest dipping set dominant with a wide range of dipping directions. South and the northeast dipping sets are also abundant but more concentrated in dipping direction. In volcanic layers, northwest and southwest dipping sets dominant as well, but with concentrated narrow range of dipping directions. West and south as well as northeast dipping sets are less frequent in the volcanic layers. Fractures in the basement may represent regional deformation with overplanes from volcanic activities, but fractures in volcanic cover are associated with deep-rooted volcanic activities and subsequent deformation due to thermal shrinkages and subsidence. There are more local specific deformations. If we organize a fracture based on their location relative to eruption center, we may see some pattern. In this case, we have two general categories: fractures within volcanic complex and along the margin. We can see from the diagrams on the right, there are three groups along the margin and two in the center. For the group along the margin, we notice that the following common features. First of all, there are several sets of fractures with different orientation in each group, in each set. And secondly, the north-south striking set with high dipping angle are common to all three groups. Number three, there is always a set of fracture with strike parallel to the major topographic landmark. For example, in the northeast along Lydia River, there is northwest striking subset parallel to the river. In the southeast along Meager Creek East, there is a northeast striking parallel to the east segment. In the south, along Meager Creek South, we see one group parallel to the creek running west-east. For the two groups in the volcanic center, there is also a common set, the north-northeast, south-southwest striking group marked by in the red, and there are other groups, the northwest and nearly west-east striking, but the dipping directions are the opposite in the two sides. For data analysis, we plot fractures on a regional map and compare them with geological features. We find some interesting link. The right side is the map. We put the mean strikes of the same fracture set at each station on the map and link the strikes of two neighboring stations if the strikes are around the same. Then compare the linked lines with geological features such as earthquake epicenter, known volcanic domes, or eruption centers. There are some interesting links. Within the volcanic complex in the east and south, east-western striking for fractures are coincident with the contacts of distinct volcanic assemblages of different age. To the north and the west, the major strike appears to be northwest and northeast, aligned well with earthquake clusters and mapped volcanic eruption centers. Around the complex in margin, strikes change relative to locations in a circular pattern. The overprints of eruptions and collapse and thermal subsidence, regardless of the original deformation, though other fracture groups of different orientation coexist. The fractures are often associated with fault zones or be part of the boundary faults. The implications to geothermal reservoir model. The top one on the right is a surface thermal feature class map from multi-seasonal Landsat thermal infrared images showing surface thermal anomalies of the study area. We plot also those known fault and inferred fault on the map to show some possible links between the surface thermal features and the structural deformation. The known faults are marked by the solid red lines and the inferred dashed lines. The black rectangle shows the southern Mount Meager geothermal prospective area. The lower right is a stress map showing the orientation of maximum horizontal compressional stress. Mount Meager complex is indicated by the red square. The direction of maximum horizontal compression stress in the study is likely northeast. From the surface thermal feature class map, we can see the major land surface thermal anomalies occur in narrow linear zones bounded sharply by boundary fault around volcanic complex. Those anomalies are associated mostly with northeast and northwest fault fracture systems. Our study also shows that there are two types of geothermal anomaly in this area. One is the persistent high temperature anomalies around exposed hot rock, indicative of shallow hot source. The other type is hot springs and groundwater seep swarms associated with fault and fracture systems, indicative of permeable network connected to geothermal sources. Natural fracture paired to maximum horizontal compression stress are most likely to be open. This is a general consensus in geoscience community. The northeast fracture is not only present but also be part of the geothermal anomalies in South Meager area. We have field observations and geophysical evidence. We see northeast striking geothermal anomalies with sharp boundaries. The northeast striking anomalies is a persistent feature of internal structure of many geothermal anomalies in this area. Also, heat flow study suggests that convective geothermal heat flux involved in the temperature field. Most importantly, northeast fractures appear to connect the two types of identified geothermal anomalies in the South Mount Meager geothermal area. Here comes to the implications for geothermal resource extraction. On your right, a map summarizes the status of the geothermal exploration so far and shows some of our findings in the Mount Meager geothermal prospective area from our studies. Also shown is the proposed well trace for improve the economy of geothermal resource extraction in this area. The base map is the surface thermal feature classes from thermal infrared images to show possible indications of the variation of subsurface geothermal field. On the map, temperature contours at elevation of -800 meters are projected based on deep borehole data, shown as solid black lines. The maximum temperature from temperature logs is more than 250 degrees Celsius from one of the deep incline wells. The traces of incline wells are shown as blue lines. The red dots are locations of geothermal wells. Those known faults are plotted as dashed red lines. The green dotted lines symbolize the inferred northeast open fracture system, and the thick black solid line is the proposed horizontal well trace. From previous exploration and production test, we know that the southern Mount Meager geothermal reservoir is a fractured basement rock bounded by fault in three directions: west, east, and south, and is extended to north under the volcanic depths. Production tests suggest that the obtained hot water does not support a commercial power plant. So the question is then, can we improve the economy of the geothermal resources extraction? The answer is maybe. Based on our studies, we propose a horizontal well to improve the economy of the geothermal production by considering the followings. To encounter largest number of open fracture by placing horizontal interval of the production well perpendicular to the direction of maximum horizontal compressional stress. To reach highest possible temperature by placing horizontal legs in the northern end, close to the hot source. To gain additional water head and pressure by placing the well in the low altitude, placing a long horizontal leg to collecting more waters and slow down the energy depletion rate. We are considering numerical reservoir modeling to test the idea. To summarize, fracture is common in basement and volcanic layers, but differ in characteristics and vary spatially. At least three types of fracture with distinct character related to: 1. Regional deformation, 2. Volcanic activity, 3. Slope failure. It is our understanding that northeast fracture parallel to regional maximum horizontal compression stress are more likely to be open, and making use of it can provide more permeability to reservoir. As such, we propose a horizontal well that allowing to encountering more open fractures, reaching maximum possible temperature, making use of elevation difference to gain additional water pressure, and optimizing horizontal leg lengths for better economy. If you are interested in more our study, please visit our poster titled AI-enabled remote sensing data interpretation for geothermal resource evaluation as applied to Mount Meager geothermal prospective area for comparison of the mapped feature set, fracture set with Landsat image-derived lineaments, and find more on the relationship with land surface temperature anomalies in the study area. On the right, it is a computer-picked lineament map showing linear features in various parts of the study area and the differences in patterns and alignment between the volcanic complex and its margin. This study is part of Geoscience for New Energy Supply Program of Natural Resource Canada. Geoscience BC NRCan's Emerging Renewable Power Program and OERD provided funding for this study. NRCan's Renewable Energy Incorporation supported these field operations. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.